2 Samuel. If you're going to tune in to Facebook, Mark, let me know when. We'll be in chapter 19, verse 31. Facebook, if you come in to join for our Sunday night Bible study, we'll be in 2 Samuel, chapter 19, and we'll start in verse 31. Just a brief recap. You remember last time David has come back to the kingdom. Absalom, he's mourned the death of his son Absalom. To Joab sort of set him straight and how it weren't right to mourn and wish that we got killed trying to put you back into the kingdom. And so David now is returned to Jerusalem. Last thing we talked about was in verse 24 about Mephibosheth, and he was questioning Mephibosheth, why didn't you come to be with me? And Mephibosheth said, well, Ziba, my servant, said he was going to bring me a donkey to saddle and ride, and he never came. And so I didn't have a way to get to you, but he says, I want you to know I didn't eat, I didn't cut my fingernails, I didn't do anything for the whole time. And he said, as far as the matters about the land, just give it to Ziba. All I care about is you back. And we're going to see that he's going to have a tough decision going forward too. Something's going to, I don't know if we'll get to it today, but something's going to come up about having to give some of Saul's grandchildren's children. And he's going to protect Mephibosheth. So let's start with verse 31. And Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim and went over Jordan with the king to conduct him over Jordan. Now you have to remember, this is the guy who, when David was on the run and needed help, he stepped in to help him. Now Barzillai was a very aged man, even 80 years old, and had provided the king of substance while he lay at Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. Now this man here, Barzillai, was great. He was able to provide help to David and his men, and the reason that he provided help to David and his men was because he felt like David was the called of God to be the king of Israel. And because of that, he chose to help him. Now David's the type that if you do something for David, he does not forget what you do for him. Now, if you do something that he thinks not right, he's liable to put you to death, as we saw for the ones that killed Saul and that time, and they come and thought they did a good thing, then he put them to death because they said you did not have a right to take God's man's life. And the king said unto Barzillai, come thou over with me, and I will feed thee with me in Jerusalem. So because he was so kind to him, he wanted to repay the kindness and wanted him to come back with him to his palace. He was coming back to Jerusalem to go back into his palace to take over his kingship again. But it's very important to watch what Barzillai said to him. And Barzillai said unto the king, how long have I to live, that I should go up with the king into Jerusalem? I am this day 80 years old. And can I discern between good and evil? Can thy servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Can I hear any more the voice of singing men and singing women? Wherefore then should thy servant be yet a burden unto the Lord thy king? I think as we read this and as we're getting older, and we do have our senior crowd in here that might can relate to that a little bit. Now, maybe we don't have many as old, but we do have a few in here can say that I'm 80 years old too. How many of you, and you don't have to answer, but I'm just asking you, how many of you are discerning what he does? He says, I'm sort of senile. That's what he's saying. It says, I can't even tell good from evil anymore. And that's what happened with dementia a little bit. He says, I can't even taste what I eat. Now, Shirley, you could go right along with that, what he was talking about. He says, I can't taste my food anymore. And I know my mother, I don't know how she lost her smell even before COVID come, but mother can't smell anything at all. And I can tell mother in her eating things that she used to like, she don't like anymore, so I know her taste has changed. And then as we get older, a lot of times our hearing is not as great. He says, can I hear anymore the voice of singing men and singing women? But here's the important thing. You would think most men would have been flattered no matter what kind of shape I'm in, I'm going. And I've seen people like that not be considerate of others as we get old. Now, I've got a mother, I'm just going to share with you, that is considerate. Her mind has come back and she's thinking more clear now. And while we were sitting there today, she said something that really broke my heart. And this is the way it made me think about it, is what he's saying to David here. Mother says, son, if I become too much of a burden, says, I don't want to be a burden for you, so just find me a good home and put me in a good home. I asked Mother, and I said, Mama, you're not a burden. I said, you're a challenge, but I said, you're not a burden. But she's much like Barzillai. He could have went, but he says not. He says, thy servant will go. He says, but David, you want me to go with you? He says, I'll go a little way with you over Jordan with the king. But why should the king recompense at me with such a reward? He says, King, why would you do this for me? Why would you give me all this? He says, just let thy servant, I pray thee, turn back again, that I may die in mine own city, and be buried by the grave of my father and of my mother. But behold, thy servant Shimham, let him go over with my lord the king, and do to him what seemed good unto thee. Well, imagine Barzillai had a good, faithful servant that he says, well, here's my chance to do something good for him. I can't go because I want to stay here. I want to be buried beside my mom and dad. But he said, David, if you will, take my good and faithful servant who's been good to me all his life. He's deserved something good in his life. Take him with you. And the king answered, Shimham shall go over with me, and I will do to him that which shall seem good unto thee. And whatsoever thou shalt require of me, that will I do for thee. Now, that's pretty good, ain't it? David, he just thought so much. David didn't have to do anything. He was the king. He could have took advantage of it. But David did not forget his friends who was there to help him at that time. And it says, all the people went over Jordan, and when the king was come over, the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him. And it says that he returned into his own place. He did not want the whole King David back. He knew he was an old man. He knew it would be a challenge for him to travel and go. And in all reality, I think we all can say this to a certain point. When we get older, I don't think the wealth of the world is as big a thing to us in our old age as it was maybe when we was coming up as a younger man. I think as we're older that we're sufficed just to make sure that we've got enough to cover what we need to cover. I think the battle is, I guess the saying that's true that says, as a young person, we destroy our health trying to make a fortune. And then when we're old, we spend that fortune trying to get our health back. And that's sort of true if you think about it. As we're younger, we work hard, and I'm battling now aches and pains from things I did as I was coming up, So, but I think we can learn a lot from Barzillai of how he spoke to David. And I think we can look a lot, and I think many of us don't want to be a burden to our children. And I know that my mother is that way, but I have no desire at all at the present time, as long as I can handle her and figure out a way of doing anything but looking out for her. But just for her to say that, lets me know that she loves me and that she was thinking of me. And all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is near of kin to us. Wherefore then be ye angry for this matter? Have we eaten at all of the king's cost, or hath he given any of us a gift? And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, we have 10 parts in the king, and we also more right in David than ye. Why then did ye despise us, that our advice should not be first had in bringing him back our king? And the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. And all of this was about doing. I don't think I read verse 41. And behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said unto the king, Why have our brethren, the men of Judah, stolen thee away, and have brought thee the king into his household, and all David's men with him over Jordan? Judah was the only one that sort of really was holding on to David being their king. But all the other ones now, since Absalom was dead, were ready to make him king also. So in chapter 20, we see that Sheba also revolts against David. Now, before I get into this, when David cheated with Bathsheba, what did Nathan tell him that the Lord was going to do to his household all the days of his life? Well, he'll take a son, but said the sword will never depart from thy house. You remember that? And that's part of Absalom, was the first part of it. So David's got that in his mind. I will never have any peace in my kingdom anymore. So everything that's going to happen going forward, and you're going to see a lot of stuff that's going to happen here, everything's going to happen, David in the back of his mind saying, this is just God repaying me for what I did. And the next thing we're going to see, even though after he's put this down, he's put down Absalom and he's back into the kingdom, now Sheba revolts against David. And there happened to be there a man of Belial, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. So he's of the tribe of Benjamin. He's part of one of the 12 tribes. And he blew a trumpet and said, we have no part with David. When David was coming back to assume his kingship, each tribe had to say what they would say. And so he was speaking up for the tribe of Benjamin, says, we have no part in David. He's not our king. Neither have we an inheritance in the son of Jesse. So he said, every man to his tent, so Israel. He ordered every man, y'all go to your tents. So every man of Israel went up from after David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah, they clave unto their king from Jordan even to Jerusalem. So Judah was the only tribe that was really standing by King David. And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women. You remember what Absalom did right time he became the kingdom? He took those 10 concubines that David had left to take care of the house. And you remember how he come and laid with all 10 of those concubines in front of all of Israel to show that, and it was scriptural that he would do this. So now watch what David does to those 10 concubines. And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and he put them in ward and fed them. And that word ward means seclusion. He took them and separated them from everybody else, and he fed them, but he went not in unto them, so they were shut up until the day of their death, living in widowhood. In other words, because of what had happened to them, even though really it was no fault of their own, he was not going to be with them anymore. He was not going to lay with them anymore. He was not going to be, so he put them in seclusion. We're going to take care of you. We're going to feed you, but you will never be with another man for the rest of your life. Then said the king to Amasa, assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou present. Now Amasa was the one that God, that is the child of Abigail, which is David's sister. And he's chose Amasa to be the general over the army ahead of Joab. But now Joab still leads part of the men, and Abishai still leads part of the men. But Amasa's the main one he goes to. And it's thought that he did that sort of that he believes Joab killed Absalom, and he wanted just not really, he was trying to wean himself off, but King David really needs Joab, because Joab his man, you know, he gets things done. He keeps them in power, so he has to be careful. So then said the king to Amasa, assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou here present. And so we've got to, I can't believe somebody didn't know I was in church, but that's okay. But then he said 3 days, I want you to be ready to go. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he tarried longer than the set time which he had appointed. How many days did he give him? 3 days. He didn't get it done. King David, he wasn't happy. Watch what King David said in verse 6. And David said to Abishai, now shall Sheba the son of Berchah do us more harm than did Absalom. So I want you now to take thou thy Lord's service and pursue after him, lest he get him in fenced cities and escape from us. So David knew with this uprising, another civil uprising, we've got to act right now. We can't give him time to get secluded in fences and cities and do it. So we've got to go. So there went out after him Joab. There's Joab with some of the men too. And the Cherethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty men. And they went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bichri. Now watch what's going to happen. Watch what Joab's going to do again. And when they were at the great stone, which is Gideon, Amasa went before them. And Joab's garment that he had put on was girded to him. And upon it was a girdle with a sword fastened upon his loins, and his sheath thereof. And as he went forth, it fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, art thou in health, my brother? Because see, he was so slow about getting his men. Joab was probably looking, are you okay? And it said Joab took Amasa by the beard with the right hand. So they had long beards that time. So can you picture it? He took him by his right hand and pulled him in like he was going to kiss him. So when he was doing this, Amasa took no heed to the sword that was in Joab's hand. So he smote him. Joab smote Amasa therewith in the 5th rib, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again, and he died. So Joab now and his brother Abishai, his brother, pursued after Sheba, the son of Berchah. Now why do you think Joab killed Amasa? Part of the reason, he probably didn't like it because David had put him in charge of it. But if you really do the studying behind there, it says he felt like he was betraying David. He felt like when David told him, Amasa, you go get these men ready in 3 days, be ready to go, and he didn't do it, Joab smelled a rat. He says he must not want David to be in the kingdom. And Joab, even though he might not like everything David did, he was loyal to David in keeping David as the king. So therefore, he said, if David can't see what he's doing, I'll just take care of it myself. Just like he did with killing Absalom. He knew he had to kill Absalom, even though David would not order it, but for David to be able to stay in the kingdom. And one of Joab's men stood by him and said, he that favoreth Joab, and he that is for David, let him go after with Joab. Now what he's saying, we're going on to get Sheba. Now you can stand here because Amasa had some men with him too. So now the men don't know what to do. They've just watched Joab kill him. Now they're all supposed to be on the same side, all going through the same thing to do Sheba. So what are you going to do? You're going to stand there and cry over your general, or are you going to come with Joab and help us go get Sheba? And Amasa, it said, wallowed in the blood in the midst of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into the field and cast a cloth upon him. When he saw that everyone that came by him stood still. They hadn't ever seen anything like that. They hadn't seen somebody kill one of their own, what they thought it was. But when he was removed out of the highway, it said all the people went on after Joab to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bichri. So we see at this present time now that they're going to go after Sheba. And let's see if we can finish this. And he went through all the tribes of Israel into Abel and to Bechmaachah and all Berites, and they were all gathered together and went also after him. And they came and besieged him in Abel of Bethmaach, and they cast up a bank against the city, and it stood in the trench, and all the people that were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. So Sheba has come. He's got into a place, and they've closed the gate, and he's inside. Now, Joab and his men is willing to destroy the whole city if they're going to protect Sheba. But there's going to be a very, very smart woman that's going to do something to save the city. In verse 16, she shows up. Then cried a wise woman out of the city, Hear, hear, say I, pray you unto Joab, come near hither, that I may speak with thee. So this wise woman came and said, Joab, I need to talk with you. And when he was come near unto her, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And he answered, I am. Then says she unto him, Hear the words of thine handmaid. And he answered, I hear you, I do hear. Then she spake, saying, They were wont to speak in old times, saying, They surely shall ask counsel at Abel. And so they ended the matter. But I am one of them that are peaceable and faithful. In other words, she's wise in Israel. Thou seekest now to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why wilt thou swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? She says, why you want to come in and kill all these innocent people in here when Sheba's what you want? And Joab answered and said, Far be it from me to want to do something like this, that I should swallow up or destroy. The matter is not so. But a man of Mount Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bechra, by name, has lifted up his hand against the king, even against David. If you will deliver him only, I will depart from the city. And the woman said unto Joab, Behold, his head shall be thrown to thee over the wall. She wasn't going to give him a chance to come in and do anything. He says, just hold on. Let me go talk with some people. And you be looking. We'll throw his head over the wall. Then the woman went into all the people in her wisdom. And she went to the people and says, look, Joab's coming in. It's going to be bad. And a lot of us are going to lose our life. All he wants, Sheba. So then the woman went into all the people in her wisdom. And they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and they cast it out to Joab. At that time he blew his trumpet, and they retired from the city, every man to his tent, and Joab returned to Jerusalem unto the king. And then verses 23 through 26 just really tells you the officers that David had at that period of time. So we'll stop there at chapter 21 and start back the next time there. And I know they got to get ready, and we're going to have play practice here in a few minutes there and stuff. So we'll close in prayer. Brother Allen, would you close for us in prayer tonight?
Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the joy that we have in coming to church, to hearing thy word, history that